Whoa, we're live. Scano, good evening. It's so great to see you guys, you people, you relatives. I
Yes,
think many
relatives.
people are excited to join us this evening. People have messaged and asked when are they coming back on? And as
They
we
visit.
move in, yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's the visiting season.
it truly is. It's a time when we take off our shoes and put on our moccasins and just relax and sit back and enjoy this evening together. I wish we had a wood stove. That would have been make things a lot more interesting. And I think the fire would have been talking to us and say, "Oh, remember when? Remember this? Remember that?" Because every time you would hear the fire crackling, it was almost like they were giving us something else to remember. Because a lot of us grew up by around the fire, and so they remember the stories, and so that's why I think how important the fire is for our storytelling time or our time to get together, because it was our way of the fire kept our stories, and that's why people love sitting next to the fire. It's it's the first thing they do is when they start sitting around the fire, they'll say, "Ah, do you remember when we were last sitting around the fire?" And then they get going on with their stories. One story led into another. Next thing you know, it was about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, because they got caught up in what the stories of the fire. So I'm very happy to see Neil. It's been a while. It seems like many moons.
Actually, it was only one moon. Didn't you just do this last month?
Well, time going by so fast.
So I know it is, and anyway, I love you both. I'm gonna go in the back room because I'm making a beautiful soup for tomorrow's lunch. Uh, as we visit tomorrow as well. So enjoy your time together, and I will
Well,
be listening. Are you taking us on a? I feel like I'm on a
I'm on
boat.
a boat, actually. I'm on a boat right now. It's pretty rough out here.
We got to cross the water to get to his place. So, how do you like my new
Oh,
shirt?
yeah. I can't read it. Oh, okay, grandmother. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a jingle dress dancer, and a dancer, and all the children are dancing their way back home to the sky world.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'll let you take the lead, my dear, my
Oh,
friend.
all right. I seems like I've been forever talking. And I'm trying to push it off to someone else to say, "It's your turn. Here's the stick. Here's the talking stick." So I'm gonna. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about fear, fear of this, fear of that, and I think it doesn't help with the media putting fear into everybody's home on a daily basis, and one of the things we're in training right now, we're doing trauma informed trauma informed workshop with Dennis Wendigo, and one of the first things that he mentioned was we forgot that we were all born with the knowledge of trauma, how to deal with trauma. Isn't that amazing? We are all born with the knowledge how to go through trauma, and we have so much that is ingrained in us. It's ceremonies that we have forgotten about how to overcome fear, because man has created fear. It wasn't the creator. Creator give us our ceremonies to help us. Creator give our speeches and our words to help us. And that first language that I always go refer back to is that language, when how everything was created, the language of love. And so you have to go back to creation story, because it talks about how he put everything in place. Well, if he put everything in place, there's going to be times when we're going to, it's only logic that people would have a loss, because it was to teach us, to teach us. And so this is why when we sat around the fire would remind us. Every time we heard that fire, it was the fire of the continuation of life. And so the fire really eased a lot of fear from our minds. Do you ever notice that? You ever notice when you sit around the fire and sometimes your mind is carried away, and your mind is troubled and your spirit is troubled, and you sit beside that fire, and that fire has that magic to lift that fear right out of us. Isn't that what we use in darkness? We light that torch and we go right into the darkness. And it shows us all these things. And that's what the old people would talk about a long time ago. They talk about the times when, they had to overcome many challenges. They didn't have instant hydro. They didn't have all these convenience we had today. So they had to overcome a lot of fear. And so that fire played a very important role. It took away the fear of being, as they would say, being without. Being without. So as long as we would have that fire, we would have the reassurance that everything was going to be okay. And I'm going to share you this one story that I always look towards that when I see one of the birds, and it is the robin. You ever wonder why the robin has a red breast? Well, the robin once I'm going to say once upon a time, well, the robin was all brown, and the robin he was always watching us. The birds are always watching us to see if they could contribute in any way to support us. And so the robin saw that the people were getting, as you say, taking things for granted. Oh, it'll be like this tomorrow. Oh, it'll be like this tomorrow. We don't have to worry. And so the people had forgotten to take care of that fire. And that bird realized, oh, if they forget that fire, they're going to be in a loss. They're going to have a lot of troubled minds. And so the robin, he sat there and he thought, wow, that fire is going down. He said, I better bring that fire up. I better bring that fire up. I better keep that fire, because you know what? Everyone took that fire for granted and they left it alone. You know what happens when you leave things alone? You see, the fire needs us and we need the fire. It's a relationship. And so that fire started to dwindle and it became a very small ember. And the robin, he flew down quick and he says, I got to keep it going. And so this is why we try to keep that fire going. It was because that robin taught us, and that robin was going like this, trying to bring the smolder up. And then it started to pick up again, and that robin would go. He says, well, I got to make sure that the wind doesn't blow it out. And so the robin went like this. He went over that fire. And he waited. And you know what was happening? He was, oh, that hurt. But he didn't give up. No, he knew how important that fire was for us. That fire was to take away the fears that would come into our minds. And so there was a child that had wandered out of the lodge, and he looked over and he saw this bird. It was bouncing on the ground. He was wondering what was happening, and he went running over there because he thought, oh, maybe this bird is caught. But that bird was just trying to keep that fire going. And that little young man went running and he said, Dad, Dad. Well, he called him in the language, and he asked him, he said, come quickly, look what's happening. There's a bird out there, and that bird is really trying to help save that fire. And so the father went like this. He gets up and he's scrubbing his eyes because he had gone to sleep. And so that father went running out there and he hollered to all the village, come, we must hurry. And so everybody started waking up, coming out of the village. And what they saw was, they saw this little bird. This bird was really working hard. And so the men went running around, even the children went around. They gathered up all those dry leaves. They gathered up all the little twigs. Everybody knew how important, because they now realized they had abused a very sacred gift. And so they brought that fire, they brought everything to that fire. And so the robin stood back. And when the robin stood back, now he was completely red. He was completely red. It had burned the bottom, the under on his belly, and now he was all red. But he did that in honor of us. And so that is why we have a song for him. We have a song. We call it the Robin Song. And that Robin Song is a renewal. And when we hear him singing, he always comes and he tells us the renewal of life. And so whenever you hear that robin, that is a promise, a renewal of life, that all creation will help us. And that's why the Creator gave them their songs. He gave them their knowledge, is to help us to, whenever there is things that's changed, there's change coming, the animals will tell us ahead of time. And so that's why it was to help us to remove the fears, the fear of winter, the fear with going out with the food. And a good example was just a week ago, my son had made me a shelf where I hang up my clothes when I do my wash, and he put a table there, made a table so I could bring out my clothes and I could fold them if I gathered them off the line. And you know what I saw? I saw a gift from the squirrels, because next on my clothesline there I have it is a big walnut tree. And I've been looking at it for a while, because I noticed how many there was on that my walnut tree. There was abundance of it. And sure enough, the squirrel had brought it up and he had showed me, I need to start picking. I need to start getting ready for winter. And so this is how we were always being prepared. And that's what we call Indian time. Always be being prepared well in advance, so that there was no fear. There was no fear. And so this is how we dealt with life a long time ago. And that's what the old ones would always talk about, how the animals told them what kind of winter was going to come, or that we need to look after these things. And it is amazing, because they're right on cue, those animals. They know ahead of time. They know that we need to bring in more wood. Even if we have stories about, I can't remember his name, but my grandpa used to talk about this old man Winter. And when we're outside, he says, if you ever hear a big crack, he says, that's old man Winter. He's going around and he's hitting those trees. He's hitting it with his big stick. And so it's letting us know that we're going to have wood. We're going to need wood for next year. And so he goes around and he hits those trees. And so those trees become our gifts to help us survive for the next winter. So you see, it is truly amazing. And today's science, they have TV, media, but all they are is promoting fear. And it's sad, because this is what causes a lot of health problems. This is what causes a lot of bullying. This is what causes a lot of dysfunction in communities, and anger, and all these things that breaks down a community or breaks down a system. And so I just wanted to share that with you today, because lately I've been hearing a lot of people talk about fear. And so I just thought, remembering when my grandpa talked about how the fire speaks to us, how the animals speak to us, how nature speaks to us, to always to overcome fear. Know that if we listen to them, we'll be ready. And so we won't have to fear the things that is going to come. So I'm going to turn it over to Neil.
I'll turn it back to you now. I've spoken. Fear, that's Fear's it's a big word, even though it's only a 4-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about, when you talk about fear, we're always fearful about something.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got to remember what we've been given, and that's all those medicines. Of
Yes.
course, the fire itself being the main. What it was one of the first gifts given, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
before even man was to touch the earth, was that fire. And when we look at the fire, we got to embrace it because regardless, we have to embrace that fire because, like my good friend here, Renee, said that the fire is our friend. When we look after that fire, it looks after us again. And then we cannot disrupt what it's doing for us. And in the today, in these days, people make fires for campfires, and they do stuff around this fire without even thinking
Mm-hmm.
what really that fire means, the sacredness of that fire. They throw things in there, they throw this in there, they throw that there. They break their bottles into the fire, or they put things in there, watch them blow up. And when Creator put all these things here for us to use, that first one was that fire. He made sure that was there. He made sure that fire was within the earth so that we could use it. And he brought those items to earth also, so that way we can make fire out of those things. Ever see the strikers?
Mm-hmm.
Natural, not matches, not lighters, not nothing, but it was all natural and then of course the stick with the bow. And they had all those tools to make a fire, and they were given that gift to do that. And there was our elders who did all that. They were given that gift as well as time moved on into this now world where our fire is not really too sacred to some people. And we do have to fear the fire. We do have to fear it, though. That's one of the things we got to be reminded of. Because in one of the teachings I heard a while back, it was quite a while ago, that we're not safe from anything. We're not. But if we embrace those things that we fear the most, the way into the spirit world won't be as bad as we believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listened to him, he talked about that sacredness of everything. He talked about how us we are now here at this point in our lives, at being the older ones now. I'm not getting any younger. My body's beginning to fail, but the fire inside still burns brightly. But every once in a while it dims because I get that loneliness and that sadness come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fear of leaving too early, that I'm not completed. Well, I can't fear that either. That's one thing I don't fear, is moving on to that spirit world. I can't, because that's not one of the things that we're given. We have to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to embrace that part, that when we leave this earth, that there's another life, and the sacredness of those fires burning in the sky world, in that spirit world, are forever fires. It's kind of like the forever walk, the forever life, the forever path. And when we look at the sacredness of that fire, and we understand it, when we lit our fires for the people, for the young ones that never made it home, our first fire way back at the beginning of, I believe it is around April, May, somewhere in that time period, we built a fire. We built it up by the rec center, and people came and offered food for those young children. And when we lit that fire, I was given that teaching on how to set a fire, this one fire that we set. And I kind of stood I wish I was close to everybody. I'd show you exactly what I'm talking about. We stood the wood up in a crescent moon style. And in the center, we placed the wood, and kind of had the wood standing like this. And we'd made our tobacco offerings, and we'd all waited for the people to come. Mind you, we didn't get too many people coming. But I believe maybe 8 or 9 people came up with their food to offer to the ones that have never made it back home. And when we saw the first one come, we were happy. Even just one, they said. Even the teachers tell us that. If just one has to come to the fire, just one has to offer the food, and maybe later the rest will come. You know that movie about that ball field? You build it and they will come. I believe that. I strongly believe that. But when we walk, then somebody asked me a question. What are we going to do? Are we going to push that wood into the fire? No, I said no. Just leave it the way it is. It'll fall gently into the fire like this. It'll kind of like collapsing inward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it did. And that's what it did. It moved. All the wood that was standing up kind of fell inward like this, all around. And by the time we were done, all that wood was burnt. We were there all day. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe. I think it was 9, somewhere around there, and we ended at 4:30. And we saw the fire. We didn't touch it. We didn't put it out ourselves. We let it go out gently, the way it was meant to be. You started it gently. You let it burn gently. We admired it, the beauty of that fire, and why it was there, because we believe that's the doorway to the spirit world. We believe that's the doorway to the spirit world. When we offer our food to the fire, we're not only offering it to the spirits who moved on into that spirit realm, or those young ones that didn't make it home. We offer that food also to that fire, the spirit of the fire. We offered water to that fire as well. And when we make our fires, when I make a fire outside, I tell my grandchildren, don't throw nothing in there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to put something in there, put some of these medicines in there. Put these medicines, and then they do it. My older grandchildren, I believe she's 12. I can't even remember how old my grandchildren are. I think she's 12, and the other one is 7. And they ask me these. Sometimes they ask me a question. How come you put medicines there, Papa? Well, I said we have to give thanks to the fire, or we have to give thanks to the spirit world, the sky world people, the ones that dwell up there. We got to give them thanks because they receive our messages through that fire. It's the doorway to that spirit world. Oshkodeh and Jagadeh. The fire is burning. Is the fire really burning? It's burning inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at that, Skodeh Jagadeh is actually the fire actually burning. No, it isn't. It's actually the wood that's burning. But the spirit of the flames is what makes everything so beautiful. It's those flames that make a different. It's like dancing, right? They're like dancers there. They're like dancing away. When we drum in the fires, they dance. When we drum to the fire, we sing to the fire, they dance. And every once in a while, the flame will come toward you, embracing the song, embracing the drums, embracing the people that are gathered around that fire. Because we can never fear the fire. If we fear the fire, then we're not looking after it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking after it properly. When we look at our sweat lodges, the fire keepers outside are the main ones that guard that fire to make sure there's nothing being thrown in there that's going to upset the balance inside that sweat lodge. Or the fires within the lodges, the teaching lodges, the longhouses, the wigwams, everywhere, not to disrupt that fire and the healing that's going on inside. And that's the beauty of it. So you see a young child run over there with a cup and throw it in there. Everybody's flabbergasted. Everybody gets angry. Why? It's just a child. It doesn't know yet. That's why we're here. We're to teach that young child, no matter how old. Oh, don't put that in there. Then you take the cup. Give me the cup. And the young one will give you that cup if you talk to that child in a manner, in that kind manner, in that kind way. And that fire will embrace that as well. Somebody puts something bad into that, we offer our medicines and give thanks and say we're sorry. We did not watch this young child do that. The young child is giving us teachings as they begin to do things like that. We are the teachers. The older ones are the teachers. We are the ones that are walking ahead of them to show them how to do these things in a manner that becomes who they are as children. You know, for me, I hear people scolding people for making mistakes. No one makes mistakes. It's a teaching that we learn from that mistake. I know I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm still learning from my mistakes. That will never end. I'll learn till my time comes. When I knock on that door of that lodge in the spirit world, they might say, "Don't come in. We're not ready for you." And they send me back. But I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. And then that's how I look at things. That's how I look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I don't want to go yet, but it's not my choice. It's not my choice. It's not my decision. When I'm called, when I hear that voice, aha, biggie you in. Okay, Achicha, come on home now. It's time. And then when they say that, they say, I heard one of the elders say that to me one time too. That's what sometimes they hear that voice telling them it's time for you to come home now. Sometimes that happens in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you that. And then the ones that will come and get you are the ones that left before you. You may not know some of them. But when we get to that place, that they say that when we get to that spirit realm where we will dwell for the rest of our time, it is said those fires are burning brightly in that spirit world. They're being taken care of. Even down here, when we look after these fires, there's always should be at least 2 or 3 people sitting there to keep the fire keeper company, or laugh and have fun, like my friend Renee said, laughing at the fire. Ooh, I'll tell you that dirty joke. Okay. All of a sudden, we burst out laughing, and the fire flames up. Laughing at the same time as we laugh. Ah, ever notice that? Try that sometimes. When you're by around a fire, you tell a joke and everybody starts laughing. I bet you that fire will flame up a little bit. It goes, then it goes back down because it's having fun, because the spirit of that fire is there with you, having fun as well. Because that spirit of the fire also knows that you're taking care of it, doing good things around there, laughter, singing. And maybe that fear also can be talked about at that fire.
Mm-hmm.
That fear can be talked about at that fire. And I guarantee you that something or someone will come into your mind and say, don't be afraid. Embrace that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the fear. Hold it gently. And tell them who you are by using your name. I would probably say, Achichak Nishnikas Wabjishindo Dem Disegus. That means my name is Crane. I am of the Martin clan, and I am afraid. Once you announce that, you have embraced fear. Once you announce that you are afraid, you have embraced it. You know, when I first met my first woman teacher from up north, the very first woman teacher I had, this was a long time ago. I don't know, maybe in the 80s, late 80s, maybe. It was after I started my journey. And she talked a lot about a lot of that kind of stuff too. That sometimes we're afraid to do things. We're afraid to make mistakes. But yet she talked about it in one of the kindest voices I've heard for a long time. My good friend Renee here, she has a nice, kind voice. But not the time I heard her speak, though. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, when you hear a person talking softly and kindly, these are the ones that we listen to. Our fear seems to be washed away when they talk. Even the old guys, even the old people. Gekanan, the old ones, they have that gentleness about them, and they send their voices out like this, and it spreads out. Kind of like, remember when I talked about that throwing the rock into the pond and the ripples come out and they go all over. Well, that's the elders. That's the elders. That's how they sound, because their voice, when it's nice and calm and gentle, the ripples of that voice goes out to all the people, and it is heard by everybody. But if somebody starts to yell and scream and say, what is going to cause in the pond is going to be a catastrophe. It's like a tsunami. It's going to hit you hard and knock you over. And then you'll say, who is that guy? Why does he talk to us like that? I get mad. I get mad. I get mad at my granddaughters for not cleaning up. But you know what? I use that. I don't get mad. I just say, it's about time you guys start picking things up. Come on, guys, help me out here. That's all I say. And you know, and that's what I hear from some elders when they talk in that gentle voice. It's like that fire, right? It's exactly like that fire. We do not look after the fire. The fire is going to cause a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. We have to know how to take care of these things. When I sing, I like singing when I'm by a fire. When we did a few years ago, before my wife passed away, we were outside. My wife asked me to sing, I believe, or one of my daughters asked me to sing. And I was singing. And we saw the pictures after. It was amazing what we saw in the fire. We saw a woman dancer actually in her regalia in the frame, in that picture. I wish I could find them. If I had them, I'd show them to you. Mm-hmm. But what really surprised us all was the orbs sitting in the trees. Yeah. The orbs sitting in the trees when we were singing by the fire. Dad, look. The first picture didn't show it. But when my daughter did the camera again on the second shirt, that's when we saw them. There were some behind me, there were some kind of all around us, but they were mostly in the trees watching us. They were enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And the spirit of that fire, when you saw the dancers in there, it was the spirit that was dancing, showing us the woman, and showing us that man, and how beautiful that looked. Fire, yeah, it's a good friend. It's our one of our better teachers.
Mhm.
is that fire. Don't look after it, it's going to spread and cause a lot of destruction. But we look after it because we're the men who have given that task to look after fires and to make fires. They're the ones that have to make sure that everybody's going to be safe with that fire. I was given when I started on my journey too. I was given teachings around that fire, how to look after it, how to put it together, how to build put the fire together, or put the fire pit together of wood, put the wood together to make that fire. They said everybody has their own way of doing things.
Mhm.
And I watched this one man who did this one that I always like to do, and that's the palisade style, in a half moon. I like doing them because that way the wood lasts longer. Sure, that's a lot of wood you got to put up there, but you can make it either 4 feet, 3 feet, or 2 feet. But in a sweat lodge, I was actually one firekeeper so many times that I looked after the ones that were in there, and I made sure outside when I was talking to the people that tell them that this fire is very sacred. That fire is working inside as well. Because when we put the grandfathers into that flame, into the fire before it starts, and then we take them out and take them inside, that connection from that fire to the inside of that sweat lodge, there's that connection. Then connects with the people that are inside or healing. Fear, yeah, 4-letter word. But we know if we know how to embrace it, we won't be so afraid anymore. But I fear for some of my people too. I fear for them. I fear for the children. In that short time I've on this path, I met so many people, and I love them all. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I remember it's telling a story that I never was hugged when I was growing up, but now I hug. I was afraid to hug, but now I'm not. I'm not afraid to hug anyone. I don't care if I just met them 2 minutes ago, or if I met them 200 years ago. I'll still hug them. Oh, I'm getting a hug? I said, yeah, that's the way of our people. Wow. Because a fire within myself, and if I was to see Grandmother Renee tomorrow, I'd hug her, and I'd hold on to her for a little while, because I hadn't seen her for so long. How I haven't been able to give her a hug for so long, that her fire and my fire get connected again. Remember the fire within. When those two get connected, no one will be able to touch my friend Renee and I. You'll stand back because, oh, those guys are hot now. Oh, yeah. And that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of everything. See, we can laugh. We can laugh about that fire. Now the fire will laugh with us. You'll see the flame go up. But sometimes there are, like Grandmother Renee said, that sometimes there are people that the story she told about the man who fell asleep and the fire was almost going out. It does happen.
Mhm.
It does happen. And when we get there, I was asked one time, Neil, the fire went out. I said, are those coals still hot? I said, stir them up a bit. Now I'm talking from my phone. Stir them up a bit, put some wood on it, small pieces of wood. It'll come back.
Mhm.
And put some tobacco in there before you do that. So when they did that, I finally go up and they got the fire going, and we build it up, and it comes back. It doesn't really go away. It's just the hot coals are still there. But it's calling your name. Help me out to it. Help me light up again. And that's the same thing with our people when their flame starts to go out. When they get into that balance, where's my hand here? I can't see my hand. Oh, there it is. And the balance is like this, right? But if it goes below, then our flame is starting to fall, start to flicker. It's not as hot. So how do we get it back? We talk to my good friend Renee, or you can give me a call. I'll sing for you to start igniting that flame again. Or you call another elder somewhere, talk to them. So that fire, so there's all kinds of elders out there. You need to find them, you need to talk to them. You need to bring those things back. The fire is our brother or our sister. When it flames up, it's asking you something. You may not know it right away,
Yes, true.
but it will come to you later.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid that you don't know. Don't be afraid you don't know, because you will be told later on in life. Anyway, I've been talking too long here. My hair is getting white. But you got to remember, though, when I say embrace the fear, embrace it. Have a look at it. Hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that you and that fear become one. Because that fear is going to help you get better, gain that energy that you are looking for. And then think about the fire. Hold a fire. Make a fire. Offer your medicine. Sing a song. Don't hold back. Don't be a shy like me. I'm a shy guy, by the way. I am very shy. Don't laugh now, my friend. Don't. She's holding back. Let her go. But again, like I said, we're all built from that fire, that sacred fire. Remember the four parts of our mother: the earth, the wind, the water, and the fire. So the fire within burns strong. But if it starts to die out, try and get to somebody that you know, and don't be afraid to talk to them about that.
Right.
Uh-huh. Me, Glitch.
Uh-huh.
I'll talk to you again. Have a good night. Adios.
Hold that fire. That's how it goes. We start talking about our stories of fire, then another fire story comes up, and another fire story comes up, and I really thank you for mentioning that stacking those logs up is very important. Jake Thomas was sharing that when we had built a fire. He says, "Watch this," and that's what he did. He was placing all them up like this, and what they did was they fell in like this, and they made that circle wampum. That's where we got that idea to keep the fire of our longhouses, and that symbolizes that relationship of that circle represents where we intertwine each other's arms and we hold on to each other and support each other when there's a time of as they say, fear. If somebody has fear, we hold them up till they are strong again. And so I've been hearing the youth are having dreams, and some of them are afraid of their dreams. Some of them have been taught that they're I think it has to do a lot with they forgot that relationship with the dream world, and because of what, look at Halloween, look at all the stories that are on Scream. They haven't even finished off. What's his name? Uh, Halloween. He still lives, and now they're getting old. They're older. He's Jason. Yeah, Jason, and I said, "Oh my God! No wonder the children have fear, the boogeyman." And that's what Reg would always talk about. He says, "There's going to come a time when it's coming." He says the people are going to be seeing the boogeyman all the time, and it's going to bother their spirit, their fire. And he said, we have to talk to them. We have to talk to them and let them know that that they shouldn't be dwelling so much on the darkness, the dark side. He says that's why that fire was there. That's our fire. And there are so many stories, and when you talk about the fire, and I'm glad you mentioned the lodge, the sweat lodge. And then one of the first teaching is you lay down that tobacco before you start that fire, and you ask that fire to be you're just a helper. You're going to bring forth the medicine, and so that the fire doesn't. A lot of men learn the hard way. They forget to do that in the process of taking care of that fire. They may get scorched. Their clothes may get scorched, or they may get burned. But if you do that beforehand, renew your relationship with that fire, you can go through and without a burn, without a scorch on your clothing or your hair or your eyebrows or whatever. It's sometimes you get too close to that fire, and these are things that you think about. And I remember this one time I used to be at Native Horizon, and it was a great concern. There was fear for our young people because there was a lot of drugs happening and our young people were getting, as they say, getting caught up in that. And so it was in January we decided to have we wanted that fire. We asked that fire to come and help us to help to remove the fear in our community. And so we gathered for 3 days, and it was pretty cold, I'll tell you. It was cold. And where our young people had gone to this place where there was abundance of drugs, we just asked the fire to help us. We just asked the fire without harming anybody, that everything would work out in a good way. And so we all dedicated long hours. And it seemed like we had, instead of a wagon train, we had our cars all parked around so we could get some warmth from the cold wind, because it was very cold. And we kept that fire going all night and all day, and we would take turns watching that fire. And it was amazing because by Sunday we had people coming, and these people just had this urge just to say, "Oh, I gotta go to Native Horizon today. I don't know why, but I gotta go." And they came from Toronto, and they came and they said, "We're here. What's happening here?" And we told them. They says, "Well, we want to help." And so they came and they sat with us. And later on that day, we heard someone come rushing up the driveway and said, "Guess what? Guess what?" And we said, "What?" And they says, "That place caught on fire. It was a chimney fire, and so it had caught on fire. See, it got rid of some of the fear of our protecting our children." And so the fire, as we say, is I had often used that. I said when I when I when I moved back into the on the reserve, and I said, "Well, if anyone needs to talk, all you just do is just bring a log, and we'll start that fire. We'll talk." And it so happens that my wood pile was getting very low, and I said, "Oh, Sankoya Diso, oh my goodness, I'm going to need some wood pretty soon to help the people." And on that day, I went to our pageant grounds to do some volunteer work because we were cleaning up the grounds, and it is an outdoor theater so that we could tell the true history. And so as I was cleaning up there was a lot of wood there, and I said, I wish I had a truck. So I went on home, and lo and behold, this is this is the power. This is the power of Creator helping us out. In my driveway, there was alongside the driveway there was this dead tree, and lo and behold, it fell right across my driveway. And when it broke into just big enough so that I could put it in my trunk and in the back seat and carry it out. Wasn't that amazing? That's how important that fire is, to disperse fear, to take away the fear of us. And just like Neil had said, was fire has a way of taking care of us. And if you ever notice that the smoke follows you, no matter where you sit, the smoke will come around and just kind of, it wants to get rid of all that fear that you have, all those the negative things that's on you. And that's the role of that fire. So if you're sitting by the fire and you get upset and you get, because that fire seems to be chasing you, you can be going sit over here, you can be sitting over there, but that fire wants to remove the fear from you. And so this is why we were always told that man created fear so he can control you. Isn't that something to think about? Creator didn't create fear because he gave you all the tools to help you to understand, and they will guide you to a better support. And that is why we're and dreams is another part of our support system. That's the way the ancestors speak to us in our dreams, and they tell us of these things that is coming. And so when we are aware of things ahead of time, that's what they really call Indian time. Indian time was never being late. Indian time was being maybe 7 months to a year, 7 years in advance. So when you have your dream and this something happens, know that it's not going to happen right away, but it's coming because it wants you to get ready. And the other thing is that it's there to help you. And you have nightmares. And this is what my dad talked about. Because there were times when I would wake up, I would be crying. And my dad would ask me, what are you running from? And I go, when you're little, you say the boogeyman, he's trying to catch me. And my dad says, well, I want you to ask him, why? What do you want? And so that's facing your fears. Lo and behold, every time I had that dream, I would wake up, I would wake up crying. And I asked my spirit, help me when I'm in this dream world. Because my dad would say, remember when you have these dreams, you can do amazing things. How many of you dream of flying? How many of you were afraid of heights? Well, I learned by my dream helped me to overcome fear of heights because I was to travel. I was to climb mountains. I was to go to places that was very high. And so I overcame those fears because in my dream world, it showed when this happened to me that I could get back my power. So dreams play a very important role. And just like my dad said, you face your fears. So I would say, yeah, right. Yeah. But he said, they're going to keep coming till you do. And I said, oh, I don't want to have those dreams. Sure enough, they came. And I would remember my fear was wolves. Because my dad would say, if we didn't have a clock or watches when we went out to play, we were always told you had to be home when the sun sits on the trees. And so I would look up and I said, oh, I got a few more minutes to stay here and play because I would be down the road. And I'd be so busy, and then I look up again, and all of a sudden the sun drops and it's gone into the woods. And I said, oh, I'm supposed to be home. So I take off and I go home. I run down the road, and in my dream, this is what is happening. I hear them coming after me, and I could hear them breathing, and I would just run to my house, my grandpa's house, and I hit that door just as they would come, or they were getting close to me, and I could just feel their breathing on the other side of that door, and I could say, I gotta face my fears, I gotta face my fears, I gotta face my fears. And so when I had that dream again, I said, I'm going to say it. And when I was running home, I'm going to say it. But I went and I did it again. I hid behind the door. So I always remember my dad said, you're going to have these dreams reoccurring until you turn around and ask it. So lo and behold, it came again. This time I said, I'm going to do it. I stopped running and I turned around and I put my hands on my hip and I said, what do you want? And all of a sudden they turned into puppies. They were turning into pets. And what they did was these wolves walk around and they just brushed themselves around me. And it was just like they were beside me and they walked me to the house. And I shared that dream when I got older with an elder, and he says, "There, that's a good dream. That's a good dream." And I says, "What do you mean it's a good dream?" He says, "There's going to be four helpers God are going to come to you in your life, and they are going to be of the Wolf Clan." And I went, "Oh, okay." Sure enough, I met a young man that was in need of understanding of life. And because he knew the technology world, he wanted to know of the traditional world. So I said, I can help you if you can help me. And so we agreed. And so from that day forward, the first thing I had to do was to teach him about the fire, how to build a fire, because our men have forgotten how to build a fire. A lot of people today, they throw newspaper on, they keep feeding the fire with newspaper. You're supposed to cut kindling up. You're supposed to get that all prepared. You're supposed to get these little grass and the dried grass and have that all ready. And so, and wouldn't you believe it happened during the winter? I mean, yes, it was. I mean, it was towards us getting towards the spring, and of course, in the springtime, there's a lot of rain. So we were getting ready for ceremony. He says, "How am I going to keep this fire going?" I says, "Not to worry. Let the fire, he knows how important this ceremony is. He can do that." So by showing him how to make that fire, now he had become my fire keeper when we would do the lodges. And so he learned how to make that fire. And so he is of the Wolf Clan. And today we are ceremonial brothers and sister. Then I have another friend that came into my life. He also walks beside me. He shares his knowledge with me, and he is of the Wolf Clan. So far, I have found three of them. And then I know there's going to be another one that's going to walk and share that fire, that knowledge, that wisdom that we're all carry. So you see, fear is a gift. We are to use it in a good way. We are to respect it, to honor it, and to take care of it. Respect your fire. Respect your fire. Fire can represent anger. Fire can represent love. And so we have to look at that. How are you taking care of your fire? Are you letting your fire out of control? Because if you do, it's going to cause a lot of health problems. It's going to cause chaos in your life. It's going to burn everything that you care about. That's what the old people would talk about. It's like you become that one that has fire mouth, and that's what causes fear. That's what they talk about. This fire that comes will burn everything and cause fear. And so we look at all these teachings. We look at that fire of life, and that's what they tell us, that there's going to be times when our fire will get low. So what do? We rub our hands together. What do we do when we're cold? We have rub our hands together to help us survive, to overcome being frozen to death. We put our arms like this to warm ourselves, and where we could do keeping our hands warm. And so this is a gift. The fire this represents the logs. This is the fire. You put your hand together like this, you can feel the heat. This heat. This heat that comes from this is the center where your fire is. And this is what is needed to help to heal yourself, to restore that. Whenever you have fear, is to put your hand over your heart and take some deep breath. Just bring that fire back to life. Bring it just like you're fanning it, just like that robin. Remember that robin that sat on that fire? Well, That's what you do. And after you got that fire going, now you go like this. You put your hand out. You put your hand in the way that this fire can be given to open and clear the way of darkness. The more fear we have, the more chaos is going to come. So you are the future, what do they call them? Star walkers, of the sky, Star Wars. You are the future warriors, and this is your power. Your power. This is your fire. This is your fire. This is what brings healing. Is bringing back that fire. Whenever you feel your mind is troubled. When you have fear, say, take this fear from mine and let it go. Take this fear that it does not sit in mine. Take this fear from me so that I do not speak of fear. Take this fear from me and let it burn out. Let it go. It's not mine. And so this is a good teacher because this fire can help you and can help others. And so this is how the healers work, is with their hands. And it comes from this heart, and that heart represents that fire. So what we have to do, we're always looking for somebody else to love us. Why don't we start loving ourselves? Why don't we start loving ourselves? That's what the Creator gave us. He put in that fire in us. That's unconditional love. And that's what the Creator gave us, is to help us to overcome fears. Fear of what is out there so that we can be like that light and take away all that darkness so that we can stand tall and strong. So these are some of the things that I have learned in my short life. And this is what I'm told that I must share, because this fire is very important. See how you build that fire? You build that fire. I want you to do that right now. Feel that fire. The heat that goes from this to here. This is just like a friend. This would represent Neil and I's friendship. How strong it is. Even though I cannot be there physically, I can send all the care and the blessings on to him and touch his heart. If any time that he feels sadness coming, I would put this out there and let him feel it. Right now I felt his energy, the tingling in my fingers. You see, this is my fire. It's the one that's talking. And so it tells me that no matter, and this is another thing that my grandmother taught me, that anger is very, very harmful. And it can destroy a lot of relationships, especially in families. And so she said, there are going to be times when their fire is going to go really low, and their fire is going to come out of their bodies, and it's going to burn you. And that's what it means. Stings, burns your heart, and it breaks it. And so we must learn how to protect ourselves. And what do? You put that fire back to them so that this fire of anger that's coming at them, I'm going to blow. And so it's going to break down that fire, and it's going to bring kindness and goodness to them. That's what I was taught. And I learned that at a very young age because my grandma said, you're going to meet a lot of angry people in your world. And sure enough, she said, some of them will be your best friend. Some of them will be even your family. And sure enough, it came that way. And so I constantly think of the people that are in need of their fire being lit. And so I do this on a daily basis. As soon as I wake up in the morning, as soon as I go to bed, or anytime during the day when I feel something, I know I have to do something right away. And how many heard on the wall, on the door, a knock? And usually they tell us someone is coming by to say thank you. So we're not to be afraid of when we hear a knock on the door. It's just to give us heads up. And fear pops in. You get all upset. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be me? Who is it going to be? Is it my loved one? It's supposed to go away. So at this time, when you hear that knock, you say, thank you. I thank you that you came and that I was able to be a part of your life. And you thank that person for coming and just saying goodbye. Because usually when that's a knock, it's someone they say comes by to say, see you later. I'm leaving. I am going home. And I have had many that have done that in our community. And that's the first thing I do is I send off. Because you want to send off protection. You don't want to think the worst of anybody. This is what we have done wrong, is every time we hear something that there's a bad accident, pretty soon our mind goes into all those scenarios. This is going to happen, this will happen. You got to, at that very moment, send that fire of love and healing and say, whoever needs this, please take this and restore your mind, your body, your heart, and your spirit. That's what our people did a long time ago. That's they call it distant healing. Well, you still got it. You got it because you love somebody. You care for somebody. You don't know who's out there that needs that help at that time. So you send that love, that fire, that renewal of life to them. And so this fire is it's like a gentle fire. And I have to keep it going all the time. I have to keep it going. And so I feed it good words. I put on another log. Oh, you're a good person. Because we have to remind ourselves that we are good people. Because so many times we get those labels. We got so many labels on us. We got all these negative labels. So it's time we start taking them off and say, this is when we take off all that darkness, the fear. We take it off and we put it on us, put kindness and goodness. Our people, we had ceremonies how to get rid of guilt and shame. Guilt and shame. And that was using the fire and using the water to release us from the fear of the unknown. Fear of, a lot of us had the fear of hell, right? Every one of us was, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And so we had a lot of fear. But you know what? I used to tell my when I was at Native Horizon, and they would say, "Oh, Grandma, they tell me I'm going to go to hell." I said, "Why? Who said that?" And they said, "That's what their book says." And I says, "No." I said, "Look around you. Our Creator, the indigenous people, always had that understanding. If there was a God or a creator that made all these good things for us, do you think for once he would create a place that would keep us forever in pain and anger and anguish? No, look at all those plants and those medicines that he give us to overcome fear of illness, fear of death, fear of loss. And so all those plants are still here. So I said, no, what the Creator has created is support. There's no such thing. And when you leave here, you're going, even if you're not, as they say, fully at peace, he's still going to take care of you because he loves you. Unconditional love doesn't stop because you've been bad. Unconditional love means you care for them even though they had to have this life experience. Their fire went out. And so now you're restoring that fire. And so just think of that fire. That fire is what we were told it was going to come. The fire it could be of destruction or it could be of warmth and love. It was going to come, but we had to be prepared. And that's what the peacemaker, he came and he helped us to look after our fire and to help that fire ensure wellness, well-being, peace, power, and righteousness. And so this fire came in time we knew it was of destruction, but we were told that fire was going to burn out, that fire of destruction, and it was going to turn into little embers. And but from that was going to come another fanning of new life. I guess the robin went and touched it because that new life meant people were going to come and see us with new eyes and new ears to hear truth. And that's what has happened. In 1969, things changed for us. There was a new fire that was lit. The new fire we call the red road, the red path. Everything started to change for us. And what is now the truth and reconciliation, even the children. And that's what they say in our prophecy, the children will lead us forward into that new light, that new light. And so what are we wearing? Is orange. Isn't that the symbol of fire? So anytime you need your fire to rebuild, wear the color of orange. Wear that fire and think of that robin with the robin red breast. Think of the fall leaves, because even the leaves right now they're telling us to keep your fire, look after your fire. Winter's coming. And so those are just some of the things that I have wished to share with you now. And so I'm going to take this time and listen to my dear friend and hear his stories. Oh,
that is really nice. I really enjoyed what you said, and we go back again to the I'm hoping that our young ones pick up that teaching on the fire, and that they don't abuse it. And that's one of the things I've witnessed in the past few years now, that a lot of our young people are abusing the fire. And of course, a lot of us, we didn't really grow up on the culture here, so we were limited as to how we were learning. But when we talk about getting ready for winter, this is where these modern technological devices help us keep warm. And using that wood, and going to offer tobacco to the wood that you're getting, and getting your stove ready, getting those pipes ready to make sure that there's no fire, your house doesn't catch fire.
mm-hmm.
Because when my kids were small, my daughters were small, we had a stove. I made sure that chimney was good. I made sure there was nothing around that stove during the night that might catch fire.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure of that. 11 o'clock, I'd put the final 2 blocks of wood into my stove, make sure the dampers were right where they needed to be,
Mm-hmm.
checked in on my girls, make sure they were covered up a little bit. But usually when you get warm, you kick the blankets off. And I never put nothing bad into that stove. That's one thing I told my wife when we said, no, let's not put nothing bad in there. No garbage in that stove. We have to look after this fire. And that was automatic for me for some reason, because I watched my dad do the same thing. We had a cook stove, but you couldn't keep that cook stove going all night. So you had to, when you woke up at, let's say, when you got to get up around 7 o'clock, it was cold. But my dad was already up at 5 getting the fire going. But it took a while to get these, the kind of homes that we used to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very cold homes. But once the heat started moving around the house, you could feel it after. And then all of a sudden, heat got into the house. So when I did my cutting my own wood, I'd go in by myself and look around to see what trees I'm going to take.
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate, though. Sometimes I found some trees that were down,
Mm-hmm.
And when before you start cutting them, you give thanks to them, even though they're down, they're gone. Their spirit is gone from that tree, but you thank the tree anyway. So I cut, and I cut enough to last me, I think, 2 winters. So I wouldn't cut the winter till the fall. Then I cut on that wood for the following winter. So I kept leap year kind of thing. So I had always had wood, making sure that everything was ready and making sure that my girls didn't go downstairs and play. If they played downstairs, I told them to stay away from the stove. Do not touch that. That's hot. That metal is hot. So is the fire within. So we looked after that. And my wife would always, when she did her smudging or put something in there, she always sometimes used to put food in there as well, too, to give thanks. And, if they had any leftover food from a meal, we do the same thing by putting a little bit of food in the fire and some tobacco. What I used to like doing with my stove was to put the cedar on top of the stove, not inside the stove, but outside on the top of the stove. I'd take some hot coals from the inside and then place them on top. Then I'd put some cedar down. Oh, you should see the smoke. Ooh, ooh. And it'd go through the house. And the girls, what, Dad, how come you did that? Oh, just so we could sleep real good, so we wouldn't be afraid at night when you sleep. So because sometimes they used to get scared at night, my daughters. Dad, what? I heard something. Then they'd crawl into bed with me and my wife. And there me hanging on for dear life so I wouldn't fall off to bed. But again, I was they wanted protection from me and my wife, and they slept in the middle, and they'd go right back to sleep again. I'd go check the stove, make sure everything was fine, because every once in a while I'd have to get up anyway, right? So I'd go check that stove, make sure it was good. And then that's what I learned growing up, is looking after that stove, cutting wood for my family so they could keep warm. And then there was times when some people ran out of wood. They asked me, Neil, do you got any extra wood? Yeah, I got some. They said they're bringing me wood tomorrow. I was wondering if I can get some off you. I said, sure, come on, I'll load up, put some wood in the truck, and we'll take it down for you. So I did. And that's one of the things. Every once in a while that would happen. But my wife and I were kind of, we kind of shared a lot of stuff, even when somebody had no bread. Neil, you got any bread? Yeah, I got some bread. I'll say I have to charge you winter prices, $20 a loaf. And we'd laugh, and I said, come and get it. I said, come and get it, and for nothing. Then they did. You know what they would? One day they brought me a jar of tomato sauce that was homemade for the wood for that bread. And oh wow, that's what they used to do. That's how they used to do things, right? They used to barter. They used to barter things. If somebody needed sugar, Commissioner on the moon, I'll trade you for sugar for salt. And you look at your salt shaker. Okay, so you get some salt for sugar, or even some. If we had butter was a nice thing. And sometimes we'd have the lard. Remember we talked about the lard and butter, lard that we used to use back in the day, right? That lard had a lot of purposes.
Yeah.
That had a lot of purposes, that lard. Some people, we'd give them half of the block of lard when they needed them. They'd give us something back. And that's the things that I try to teach my daughters, is to try and, instead of selling it, or try and trade it, because it makes it a lot easier, a lot better. It connects everything, kind of like us with the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
We trade stories on fires. We trade stories with fire for fire. It's not like that anger part where fire for fire. How does that? How did they say that in the biblical times? An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
That's what we learned growing up. An eye for an eye. There's no such thing as eye for an eye. Not in our culture.
Right.
Not in our culture. You got any fish? I got some deer meat.
Mhm.
That was our eye for an eye. That was our trade. That's how we lived. That's how we survived. When my friend here, my friend Renee, talked about that. Now I forget what you talked about. I had it right there and it popped out of my head. See, that's how things work. Because I'm getting older. But
No,
when we talk about,
you just got a
hey,
lot of information.
maybe my head will be smaller by the time we get done here, like that, looking like this. Hey, and but when we do that trading things, and that was one of the greatest things ever. Even with the wood. Even when somebody ran out of wood, there was always somebody there to bring wood to a person that was in need of it, to look after their fire in their home for their children.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I learned growing up. I watched that growing up. Even though I started drinking at a very young age, I could still see what was going on. Even when I was drinking, of course, I got yelled at a lot when I was drinking by my aunties, and they'd always check me when I got made my fire, especially when I was. That's the part where that's one of the things I have to take care of as well too. Is that I still get angry. When I think about stuff like that, when I was drinking, I used to make a fire. I used to make a fire when I was drinking to my stove, and that's not good because, of course, I never learned anything about the sacredness of that fire back then because it was taboo to learn about that kind of stuff. It was taboo to learn about that fire.
Mm-hmm.
The only fire we ever heard was what Grandmother Renee said is the hell. And I really believe that as well, that there is no such thing as hell. There isn't. For me anyway. I don't know about anybody else within this group that is watching us, because it was put into our minds. Fire and brimstone. If you don't pay attention to what we're saying, you will burn in hell. And our people did not like that. They didn't want to burn in hell. So they had to follow those kind of rules. So we lost to teach some of that fire of teaching. Fire teachings were almost gone at some point. If it wasn't for our elders who went underground to keep those teachings alive, we wouldn't have them right now. We wouldn't have anything. We'd become a part of a population with no status. I guarantee you. If it wasn't for those elders, the old ones, keeping those teachings and all those things they had hidden, and yet they were in here. They were in their heart, in the heart, and when they started to bring those out. Mind you, they hid and did those ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
They got caught, they would go to prison, or the children would be taken. And this is how this is some of the things that I think about sometimes. I get angry when I think about those, as to what happened to our people. I get angry. When I first heard about those young children that were found, I was sad, angry,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought to myself, how could anyone do that? How could anyone do that to young people like that, who didn't even know? They were just learning from the grandparents. They were just learning from their aunties, their mom and dads when they were taken. They were learning about the good way of life. All of a sudden, they were put in a place where they were taught the bad way of life. They went from the bright to the dark. And that fire that they had continued to burn within them. They were still strong up to that point. They were afraid then because they had nobody to take that fear from them. That fear was bred into them. That fear was bred into us. But now at this point in our lives, we have to learn to take that fear out of our system. Embrace it. Give it a great shake. I don't fear you anymore. I will embrace you. I will learn from you. I will gain my strength and energy from you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we got to say now. We light our fires. We should have a national day of fires someday.
Mm-hmm.
All across Canada, across Turtle Island, all First Nations gathered together at a certain time, light their fires, offer some food, offer the medicines, and light it and give thanks because we are still here. You know, the best thing I truly, really love is when I hear the stories from the old ones. Most of them are gone now.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, you know, we take a little bit from what they say, bring it into this life, and we continue to hopefully pass it down to the younger ones so they hear and understand what it is that we're saying. Hopefully, anyway. But I got to let people know, too, you need to talk with the elders. Ask them those questions. Ask them. If you don't know your language, that's all right. Let them know that. Grandfather, grandmother, I need to talk to you. I have to talk to you in this language. I don't know my language yet, but I would like to learn, is what you say to them. But I have a question for you. And you do that in a kind way. Take that gift of tobacco, maybe even a little lollipop. Elders like candy sometimes too. Something small, a small gift and a little bit of tobacco. It doesn't have to be, well, when people come to see me, they want to buy me a Porsche, you know, and that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, of course. I'm just kidding. But elders, when you talk to them, when you go and see them, and you ask them that question, you say, "I've got tobacco in my hand. I got to ask. Can I ask you a question?" And the elder, you'll see the elders when you look at them right in the eye, you'll see their eyes light up. You'll see that smile coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of sitting like this, their motion to sit up straight becomes even, and they become that tree again. Mind you, it's an older tree, but they'll still stand straight. And they'll look at your hand with that
Mm-hmm.
tobacco in it. They'll say, and then when they put their hand out, that's when they give them that tobacco. And what we call the sacred contract is signed. And then you'd ask them the question. But be ready though, eh? Be ready, because the answer you get from them is not only going to be only 2 or 3 minutes. It may be 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. And in your mind, you're thinking, when is this guy going to stop talking? That's what happens. Honest. But that's okay too. Because when the grandfather or grandmother is done talking, then you'll know the answer to your question. The answer to your question is a lot longer than this. Oops, a lot longer than this. That answer that you get from the elder is a forever answer for you. And that's kind of like that path we talk about, that forever path that we walk on. When we started off in Creator's side, He gave us a path to the earth. He gave us a path to walk on upon the earth, our mother. And then when He calls us home, we have another path that we walk. And the path continues in that spirit realm as well. When we talk about fire and fear, we got to remember that we have to really take care of those things and concentrate on how we take care of them. Like I say, for me, I'm only young on this path, but my body is old. My mind is getting older. My heart is getting older. My body, my bones, everything. I'm still walking. I still want to go out and cut wood, but I can't. They won't let me. The spirit of my wife would come back and slap me if she saw me cutting wood in the bush. Because she's the one who told me to stop cutting wood. She said to me, "Hun, don't cut any more wood. That's enough. You're too old." She was looking after me. And I really appreciate that she did that. And I never did after that. And that fire between her and I is still burning, maybe. It's not faded, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It'll always be there.
Mm-hmm.
The fire that hopefully that everybody that's watching, think of that fire within yourselves. Light it up. Dance, sing, laugh, enjoy. Jump in the water, jump in the lake. Take your children running. Go play in the leaves, have fun. You'll feel that fire begin to pick up. Always look after yourself first, though.
Mm-hmm.
Always take care of you first.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I always say, if you can't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody else.
True.
For this short time I've been on this path, like I said, I've met a lot of people. People have told me things. I've heard their stories. But it's their story, not mine. And when they ask me to sing for them, I do sing for them. When they ask me to pray for them, I pray for them. When they ask me to smudge for them, I smudge for them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best things, for me is that I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing that. I won't turn you down. I won't turn you down unless you're 20 minutes away. 21 minutes, I got to turn you down. No, I'm just kidding. And, but again, like I said, I don't know, maybe for some reason I'm here still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here still to help that spirit, help that fire within you. Help the fire also with me
Mm-hmm.
to help you. Like I said, I'm not going to turn you away. If you want to, Skype me, or I don't know how to Skype, by the way. I got to find somebody who does that. I barely can get on Zoom. But yeah, I noticed that tonight. But again, like I said, I don't turn anybody down unless I have to. I will, because sometimes I'm told you got to take care of you too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of it. That's the point there, right there, right? Taking care of yourself before you can move on to take care of that part, right? And when we talk about the fires, always remember the fire never really goes out. It's just that we got to get up, look at it, turn the coals, and light her up again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing within the body. That fire that burns in this body as well is the same thing. We get down to real low in that balance of life. We're below that line. Drop it down. We got to get back in there by talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to that culture that was supposed to be, that is ours. Learning about all that. If you don't know how to make a fire, call me. If you don't know about tobacco, call us. Don't be afraid. Because that's what, again, that fear of asking the wrong question,
Yes.
fear of asking. There's no such thing as a wrong question.
Yeah.
I've always said that when I do workshops. There are no wrong answers either. Did you know that? There are no wrong answers. The answers that sometimes people give are a little bit different from the others. And yet they walk side by side with each other. When you ask the right question, you may not like the answer, but it's the truth. So that's why when I do that, when I sing, when I talk, when I sing and have fun, when I do your back for you, if I'm near you, if you're in a circle with me, when I do your back, I'm sending you that energy. I'm sending you that match for that fire that's almost going out in you.
Mm-hmm.
I light you up. I don't mean that in a what you call in a bad way. I mean that in a sacred way. I will light that fire within you if I can, but you got to help with it. See, myself and grandmother Renee can walk you to the door. It's up to you to turn that doorknob and open the door to go through. I remember talking about this way back in the beginning when we started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
We can only take you so far to the door, but you got to open it and see what's on the other side. But we will be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see the fire, embrace it. When you see the fear, embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And embrace yourself once in a while too. Give yourself a hug because sometimes you need that hug for yourself. Once in a while, I'll go like this.
Yeah.
Give myself a turn. And what I'm doing is loosening up and saying, "Hey, I'm worth it."
Yeah.
And we are all worth it, right?
Right.
Mind you, I'm only worth $1.95 now.
No tuning?
No toonie yet. No toonie yet. It's getting close. It's getting close. But again, like I said, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. And because the way things are these days, I think that's what it is. We fear the answer. We fear the answer. But never. But again, like I said, sometimes people answer you differently, so the answers are never wrong. Like grandmother Renee, when you ask her a question, or you ask me a question, you may ask Jody a question. The answers are going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not wrong. You choose the one you want to walk with. It's kind of like that movie, Indiana Jones, remember? And where he goes into that mountain looking for the cup of Christ, they call it, and he meets an old man in armor, and the other guy comes in after him, and the old man says to him, he says, how did he say that? Choose wisely.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely, he said. And the other man, he didn't choose wisely, and look what happened to him, right? He turned to dust.
Yeah.
And yet, when Indiana Jones took the right cup, took a drink out of it, the old man says, "You have chosen wisely." So I take some of those, when I watch those movies, I hear some good teachings going on in there.
Yeah.
I hear some good teachings going on here that reflect who we are as First Nations people on Turtle Island. That reflect us as good, kind-hearted people. We laugh, ha 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 ha, and we cry, and we're sad. That's all right, because it's part of what we were given when we left Creator's side.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think I'm running out of.
Fire.
I got to go get my. No, my fire's still going strong here. I still got to talk to somebody else after we're done. So anyway, I really enjoyed tonight. I really enjoyed myself, and I really hopefully that a lot of the ones that are watching
Yes.
take what we say in a kind way. Use it for yourselves. Remember, you got to look after you first. Use that fire within you, within that mind here and the heart. Make the connection. And then if you you're having problems, don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it.
Mm-hmm. True.
I'll give you Renee's secret number.
You can find her online.
Okay.
Go to grandmothersvoice.com. Send her a message. She's got a direct link. There's some really beautiful messages here. I think I've mentioned it before. On the top right, you can see comments. So there's like comments, and some. If you hit comments, you'll be able to see all the comments, and there are a lot this evening. And there's some hello to all of our friends. There's so many of you that are sending hearts and loves, and I know all of you. Oh, Renee just exited accidentally. She had a tough time with technology today. She's been in demand lately. She's been on a lot of Zooms and in community, and we're in a very busy time. But tonight was really great, Neil. I was making soups. Oh, here she is.
I took a breather. I just stretched.
They're so cute, eh? Like this is why I do this. I made 2 soups this evening with love and laughter. All the vegetables, Renee, that you gave me the other day. And I made a nice ham soup with this bone from my parents the other day. And Neil, you make me laugh. I don't even when I hear a pause, I know you're going to say something funny. So anyway, yes, you're right, Marie, Louise. It was amazing energy, and I really needed it, and especially after the last couple of days in with our training, it was really amazing to have this evening with you. You're beautiful.
Well, I hope one of the things that we really wanted to put your mind at ease is how to overcome fear. Overcome fear. Let fear rule you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're indigenous. You're of Earth people too. You're connected to the land. And no matter what culture, nation you are, you have that Mother Earth, and she's sharing. No, don't have fear, because I have shown you how to take care of yourself.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
There's one more thing too, maybe too. When you can't make a fire, always try and use a candle.
Yes.
Try and use a candle, and because that candle, it does flicker, kind of reminds me of the fire inside of us.
Yeah.
And just kind of look at that and understand it, that that fire connects us all. Mind you, some of it, our people used to make stuff like that too, but I don't think they called them candles then. They called them torches. Anyway.
All right. Have a great evening.
Okay. Take care.
See
Adios.
you soon.
Adios, amigos.
Adios.